Jason Grant, also known as Jasonafex, is a narcissistic Aussie who originally was made famous by dating a well-known artist. Kyber commissioned her to tongue F his butthole. Other than that, he's known for his quality animations that he sells to furries at absurdly high prices. His other self-proclaimed successes include living in a shed with his underage girlfriend, being a failure of a game developer, starting up 4 Patreons at once for each of these games, then spending said Patreon money on expensive dogs to satisfy his girlfriend's needs while he watches. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get into this. The drama started back in 2011 or so when he was banned from TF2chan for tracing micro art. Rather than admit imperfection, Jason took the high road and demanded respect for all the mods that he worked hard and contributed to. As of 2016, his For Affinity journals still show the same amount of narcissistic red flags as ever before. Due to his inability to learn the entirety of the human anatomy until his 20s, his signature animation style consisted of making sure every bone in the subject's body moves in different directions than the one it's supposed to be connected to. At some point, he started a relationship with a 16-year-old girl. He decided to fly across the world and move into this girlfriend's parents' house, only then to be kicked out within a week and forced to set up their own shed 20 feet away. They are now living the perfect life of sleeping on the concrete floor and stealing internets from the parents. Jason's interest in animals arose when he first joined For Affinity in 2010. Apparently, he has been into animating for a while, since the earliest dated animation is from at least 4 years ago at the time of writing this ED post. So it's safe to say his fascination with not penetration has been alive in his mind for longer than anybody knows. Apparently, when he first began his internet escapades, he was a little too obsessed with Gary's Mod and TF2. It turned out, though, he was a little bit too interested in TF2. People were able to find an old TF2 modding profile that Jason once owned, and there's 2 very interesting bits that were scouted out while people were analyzing his TF2 days. For one, he was more than obsessed with gigantic tits. We are not talking about just regular boobs. We're talking about boobs that would crush your head like a grape if they swung right at your head. He would draw and create his own little mods that would make pyros into physically impossible busty women that have nipples sticking out like missile silos. What's truly funny about this was people found that he was tracing all of his pyro poses from other pictures. Needless to say, people got on him for this, especially since it's one thing to be a basement dweller who's obsessed with unrealistic tits, since he had 0 possibilities of feeling some, but it's another thing to be a loser who can't even be original with his perverted fantasies, and has to borderline on stealing it from other perverted people just to justify his own sexual desires. People brought this to his attention. This was on a Chan board where people demanded answers for what Jason had to say to clear up the plagiarism. The only thing he could muster was, quote unquote, "I have too much respect and attention to keep track of this. I won't put up with these accusations," quote unquote. So he flat out left all the threads and refused to acknowledge anything of the plagiarism. So eventually people forgot about it and everyone went back on their merry way. Despite all of that, his modding profile is still alive and accessible for anybody who is curious of his modding habit. It's not exactly known when Jason and his current girlfriend first came in contact with each other, but pretty much well known that his relationship did not start off the most wholesome in principle. Apparently at the same time they started interacting with each other, his girlfriend was a bit below the age radar. We say she was around 16 or so. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Jason had some pedophile tendencies, since at the time he was at least 21 or 22 when they started hanging out with each other. They officially united in 2013, but honestly, who knows how long their quote-unquote love had been transpiring. What's even more insane is how he managed to scramble enough money to fully migrate over to Canada to live with his online girlfriend. This happened at least 2 years ago, as the writing of the ED post. So, at the very least, she was around 17 or 18 at the time he came to Canada. As of since, she is currently 20. Either which way, there's some creepy context to all of this. Eventually, Jason did manage to stay in Canada. For all intents and purposes, he is fully Canadian. Jason decided to make a furry dating game. Better yet, he also let his girlfriend draw all the art for it and created the Patreon program for it, even though we have no idea how hard it was actually to code the game, or to code at all for that matter. Amorous, a game that Kyber is pretty much drawing most of the assets for, while Jason outsourced and found other programmers to help. In typical fashion, it seems that Jason took some of the money that was for the Patreon to satisfy some of his 6 desires. In the most surprising twist of events, the programmers were jumping ship left and right, and the game wasn't getting many consistent updates. In the worst business move ever, he wasn't keeping up with the Patreon's TOS by providing the application perks to people who were paying for them. Someone actually stood up and told Jason that he was breaking the law for not giving the Patreons what they got. His ego corrupted him into a power-hungry person who thinks he isn't at risk of losing anything, seeing how too many people were still willing to defend him. When people were getting mad that Jason was not keeping up the Patreon and what they bought, they started criticizing him. Well, the criticism brought guard dogs, which was perfectly fine with Jason because he didn't have to worry about any of the threats anymore. That the project had come to a screaming halt as more and more people started to realize how completely unorganized and ignorant Jason actually was, since he also couldn't keep paying the work that the programmers were doing in the first place. Despite the fact he was basically not given any F's about the losers who actually paid for the Patreon and wanted to get the proper benefits. He decided just to sell the benefits that were already meant for other people, so Jason decided to sell these benefits in-game that were already meant for other people and who already had paid for them in the first place. We can only hope that some of these people actually go through some sort of a lawsuit. Jason then went on to make another game, Back Streets, which is kind of a weird mix of street rage and a really crappy porn video. But unfortunately, there really isn't much on Back Streets, aside from the fact that it's got its own Patreon. Jason also halted development on any future developments that were going to be in this game. Jason made a Patreon for a game that was made to create your own character and then have sex with it. So the problem is that the other game, Amorous, was the same exact game, kind of. And the funny part about it was he had 2 Patreons for the same game. As noted at the beginning of this, Jason and his girlfriend were forced out of the parents' house and were living in a shed 20 feet outside of the house. You would think Jason would actually do a job to fix the situation they were in. Clearly, the next step in his plan was to create a GoFundMe, have all the furries and people that followed him get him out of this jam. The GoFundMe story describes how they got into the situation they were in. Majority of it they were possibly lying about just to get some sympathy and paint themselves as the true heroes, and how the girlfriend's parents were evil and abusive towards Jason. A little side note here, I too would be a little bit mad if I was the parents, because Jason decided to write a comic about the girlfriend's fictional dad having sex with him. Instead of being responsible adults and spending the money of the GoFundMe on the original purpose, they bought a dog. And not just any dog, a purebred Shih Inu. That was $2,000 right there out of the $3,000 of the GoFundMe. It's not suspicious at all when there was the glaring issue that they also wanted to get doggy stairs so the puppy could get onto the bed. And this bed, according to their quote-unquote boo-hoo for us GoFundMe, was a mattress on the floor. Needless to say, people got very suspicious about exactly what the money was going for. People started to get on Jason about where the money was going to exactly, since they put up so much fuss and fuss about living in really poor conditions. Of course, as we all come to expect to him, Jason handled it in the most mature and responsible way he could by calling everybody trolls and saying he was too popular and his reputation isn't worth this. Spending money on a dog instead of your responsibilities you have as an adult is actually something worth being called out for. But of course, during all of this, Jason just can't seem to stop shooting himself in the foot, because while all of this was going on, he started a Twitch channel to provide more quote-unquote hilarious and original stuff for people while they were whining about the crappy internet they had, even though he is not the one paying for it. While dealing with all the hate he was receiving from how suspicious the GoFundMe payment was, Jason couldn't stop digging his own grave by flocking to E621 and fighting for his marvelous madam by defending her art style and getting angry over people saying his animation sucked in the comments of various submissions containing his material. While he was clearly mad, he was claiming on the site that he wasn't mad in any shape or form. So you might wonder, what was the E621 moderator staff going to do about this situation that was unfolding? Well, they censored all comments opposing Jason and let him get away with acting like a child. On top of all of that, Jason decided to throw a free raffle. This raffle would choose one lucky winner, and their picture would be given his animation style. Eventually, he chose a winner from that raffle and requested him to send a picture that person wanted to have animated. And in a surprising turn of events, the picture was actually not porn related. It's actually like there are some furries that exist that don't indulge in corn, but indulge in more cleaner, innocent content. Obviously, this went against Jason's policy for not having any sexual content related to the animation. So it only made sense that he denied the raffle winner and did a redraw. Inevitably, this did cause people to turn their heads and criticize Jason for doing something like this. You would think with all of these scandals going on around the same time that Jason would be like, okay, I'm clearly doing something wrong here. Even other well-known furry artists had come out of the woodwork to bring the hammer down on Jason, but even all of this star power behind the anti-Jason bandwagon, the mods on FA did the same exact thing that the mods on E621 did. They stopped everybody's comments while allowing Jason to walk away scot-free again. Cultivation of all of this spiraling around Jason finally got a furry movement going that revolved purely around bringing down Jason. Some might call this a little too late, but late resistance is better than no resistance. Of this resistance against Jason was another well-known furry artist and animator came out and saw the way that Jason mistreated the original raffle prize winner and decided to be a good human and animate the picture for that raffle winner. It was hilarious because Jason caught wind of this and left passive-aggressive comments. It's clear that he was mad at the animator for taking the limelight away from him and that animator being a decent person. Aside from this, Jason's fans jumped to his aid and defended him. This included the FA moderators that got involved when the prize winner wrote a journal responding to Jason. And keep in mind, after Jason himself announced the situation and came to the journal to quote-unquote discuss what was going on, of course, when anything evolves around a popular person in the furry community, the moderators decided to jump to Jason's aid and silence the raffle winner's journal. Someone pointed out how karma is going to be so good for when Jason gets it. And aside from this, Jason became a hot topic on a furry 8chan subboard. As mentioned before, Jason is truly a cuck in the purest definition of the word. He is more than keen on the idea of his girlfriend having other fictional sexual partners, while in turn enjoying the idea of him getting sexual pleasure from other people. Apparently, this strange obsession goes beyond to the point that comics exist of Jason cucking it up with his girlfriend's own fictional furry dad. Whether or not this is channeling an insane fantasy of his causing a huge cuckfest with his girlfriend's family, it's still very strange. What's really going on in the shed? One of the things also worth noting is all the animal abuse jokes people throw towards his way. Recently, his girlfriend was drawing a comic that contained bestiality in which furries have relations with their pet dog. So, this begs the question of whether or not that the puppy they bought was being used for nefarious needs. So, his girlfriend exploded on Twitter on the 11th of February because she got triggered when a tattoo artist messed up. Posting pictures of her tweet, it's better to link the Fur Affinity Journal where she posted about it instead, since there are very apologetic furries in the comments. The sweeter part about this is she agreed to give the tattoo artist her money, but didn't do anything else. Didn't even ask to see a contract or nothing like that. Then acts all triggered when she gets scammed, quote unquote. In 2023, a bunch of tea spilled from somebody named Lanza that made a video covering a story of Jason. Everything that was already written here and on the Kiwi Farms, but with a twist. Apparently, Jason and his wife are now polyamorous and in a relationship with someone dubbed Peace Wolf. In a previous drama, Peace Wolf had been accused of being a quote unquote far-right Christian Nazi. But in reality, she is a neoconservative. She was also married and had a kid, but she claims her husband is abusive, hence why she ditched him for Jason and Kyber. The husband allegedly confronted the terrible trio with a pistol. He instead got on his knees and cried like a wimp. In the aftermath of all these videos being made, getting hundreds of thousands of views, Jason and his companions did a rare radio silent thing for a while, and their accounts became ghost ships with little to no activity in 2024. Some of the other things that the Kiwi Farms has dug up was on May 11th, 2020, someone had posted hard evidence that Kyber voice acted for a porno animation that Jason had made while they were 15 and 16, while also going into detail showing that they were dating Kyber when Kyber was 15-16. On March 21st, 2019, Jason decided to join the Kiwi Farm to try to defend his honor. He has yet to leave of April 1st, 2019. Some of the newest updates as of 2024, as one of the ex-programmers from Bareback Streets tweeted out that Jason is still using his code almost a year and a half after he quit. So, Jason, Kyber, and Peace Wolf decided to make some cornos, and in late 2024, they decided to make a sequel where the wife films and Kyber and Jason get it on. People on the Kiwi Farms found out that Josh came on to the subreddit under the name of Zealous KDD, which they did find connected to his Xbox account, which goes under the name of Zealot. Now, what was interesting about this is that Jason would go and try to defend himself, saying that nobody on the Kiwi Farms understood and that he doesn't grape animals. And one of his best quotes is, "I didn't ask to be only attracted to animals, but made having a normal relationship fairly difficult thus far." A post on January 2nd of 2025 shows a screenshot from Blue Sky that another user is outing Zealot, or Jason, as a zoophile. The post on the Kiwi Farm said that they are now being accused of fucking dog corpses on Blue Sky. And this is what the post on Blue Sky says. I am so tired of these people, coming from Jason. The original poster says, I said I wouldn't come forward with this, but I can't hold it anymore. Zealot is a zoophile who fucks his own dog, has corpses of animals he openly uses as sex toys, and constantly tries to enforce his disgusting worldviews onto other furs. I am done keeping this secret. Then the person goes on and adds a whole bunch of different users on Blue Sky, saying, putting this warning out there for y'all. He is legitimately a dog rapist, POS. And then Jason responds back, holy shit, what the fuck is wrong with you? That was all the new and relevant information on Jason Grant. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.